Fight Guys, and I'm also a Forbes contributor, and it is my pleasure today. I have an opportunity to speak to a combat sports legend, MMA, wrestling, you name it. I'm talking to Ken Shamrock, who is now the president and co-founder of Valor Bare Knuckle. How you doing today, Ken?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. You guys have a very special and unique announcement to make today. And it is in regards to Valor Bare Knuckle. So we're going to get into that in a second. But talk to me a little bit about Valor Bare Knuckle. What sets it apart from other bare knuckle promotions and the combat sports in general?
Well, I'm not sure that we want to compare ourselves to other organizations. When we come out with Valor Bare Knuckle, the idea was to take something I fell in love with. I started way back in the earlier days when they didn't wear gloves and it was all no holds barred. And all of a sudden they came in and started putting gloves on guys, trying to make it safer, quote unquote. And I really missed it when they started putting gloves on guys. I felt like they took away the purity of that combat sport. And so I always said to myself, whenever I had a chance, I was going to go back to that, whether it be a fighter or whether putting my own show on. Of course, it came to me putting the show on. And the idea was to take bare knuckle and put it back where it belongs. And that's in a respectable light. Because the way that it has been portrayed as being unsafe and dangerous is just so unfair. I use an example of like hanging a bowling ball from a chain. And if I told you without a glove on to punch that bowling ball, you would look at me like I was crazy, right? Mm-hmm. But if I was to tape your hand, put a glove on it, and then tell you to hit that bowling ball, you would go, okay, and you'd hit it. Well, what's the difference between the hand and the head and the bowling ball? Nothing. Mm-hmm. Because that bowling ball is the same thing as your head. It's hard. But if you only hit the soft tissue area, you're okay. But the chances of hitting that soft tissue is very, very minimal. If you miss without gloves on, you hurt your hand. So that's the reason why in my mind I kept saying, how are you saying that it's safer when you allow guys to hit you in the head over and over again? So I really want to bring this out into the light. I want it to put it where it belongs, and that's in this respectable column of combat sports.
Yeah, because in bare knuckle, mostly their head damage or whatever comes from the cuts more so than the actual head trauma. If I'm saying that correctly, correct?
Absolutely. You're talking about cuts, broken noses, broken hands, broken jaws, blood. So when you're watching it, you're like, oh my goodness, that just looks horrible. But here's the thing, right? What you don't see is how many times your brain in the fluid in your brain, how many times your brain bounces off in your head when you're in a combat sport. And the more option you give to somebody to punch somebody in the head hard without hurting their hand means that you get to punch them more times. More times means that brain bouncing off in that fluid in your head more times. So when you throw a punch and it's a good punch, it's an accurate punch, you can put somebody down. Mm-hmm. If you throw a hard and accurate punch, you can finish the fight with the bare knuckle. But if you put a glove on somebody, tough guys can fight through that. We seen it a couple of weeks ago where a guy just was tough as nails and he kept coming. He died. And it was from the multiple shots he took to the head because he was able to keep getting back up again. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's just, it's me being a fighter and have experienced all of these things. It's to me, it's crazy to think that we've gone this far to push this as being safe. And the reality is it's just not the case.
Gotcha. Now you've done, like, as you just alluded to, you've done just about everything there is to do in a combat sports space. I mean, all across. I mean, if you're uninformed enough and I'm not aware of Ken Shamrock's resume, I would advise you open another tab on your internet browser and Google him, and you just scroll down the list and you'll see. Now, so I'm sure that you've been asked or approached to be involved with promotions before, but you chose to really get in the trenches with VBK. What was it about this partnership with Des Woodruff and all that made you say, yeah, this is the one I want to really, really sink my heels in with?
Well, first of all, me and Des have been talking about this for 5 or 6 years. We've Because like I said, I fell back in love with it years and years ago when I first started, and talking with Des, I had conversations with him about the bare knuckle and how I really wanted to bring this back. And of course, he's a numbers guy and he's a trends guy. He kind of checks and sees where things are growing or decreasing, and so he started looking into that. And he started seeing the numbers and things, and it was too soon to the market, right? It was just too soon. So we kind of waited, and then all of a sudden, we start seeing all these different bare knuckle things on the social media. When it was just street fights or anything that had to do with something that happened in media, they would get millions of views because it was a fight and it was bare knuckle. It was some sort of street thing happening. And then we started seeing other promotions come up and start doing shows, and we started seeing those numbers rise up. And that's when we said, you know what, now's the time. Des says the time is now. And so me and him got together, and Des put together a killer team that we have on our team in Valor BK. And we just started moving forward, started picking the pieces apart, allowed some other guys to kind of go out there and test the market, see where it's at. We followed closely on what everybody was doing to see the mistakes, to see the things that weren't working. And then we just jumped in and threw our head over the fence and said, we're going to make it we're going to put it at a professional level. We're going to bring it from the dark to the light. Take bare knuckle, put it out in the front of people, help educate them, help them understand what it is, and to be able to put it in a very professional light. And that's really how this got started. Was we had talked about it for years, and just waiting for the right time, watching the market, seeing the trends, and we're here. That's where we're here today. Right now, ready to launch Valor Bare Knuckle.
Yeah, and Valor Bare Knuckle. So we're going to get to talking about the one night tournament in the heavyweight division. It's on September 21st at Four Bears Casino and Lodge, and that is in Newtown, North Dakota. But and so I got one more question though before we get there. The name Valor, it means great courage in the face of danger, especially in battle, right? So there's some obvious connections between that and fighting. But what made you and Des say Valor? That's what we want to put at the front of our company name.
Well, I think you said it. We understood what Valor meant, and we want this organization to have that. The courage, honor, and be able to stand up in front of danger. Like when we have guys go into the ring to fight, we want guys to go in there with courage. We want them to go in there with toughness. But we also want to make sure they respect the sport. They respect the fans. They respect the media. They respect the art that they're doing. And so we want to make sure that this is done at a professional level. That name meant a lot for us to move forward because we wanted it to make a statement right from the get-go on what we are as a company.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now let's talk about that heavyweight tournament, because you guys are doing something completely different, like in terms of fan interaction and all that. Can you explain what that process is? How that, like, what the whole concept behind it, and what is it, manifested in?
Yeah. Listen, first of all, I just want to mention the heavyweight names. We got Romero Sokoju, Mighty Mo, Jack May, and Mark Godbeard. Think about those names for a minute. Those are some skilled fighters that are going to be in this tournament. We got James McSweeney as an alternate, who in his own right is a tremendous bare knuckle fighter. So from the top to the bottom in this tournament is tough. What we don't want to do is we don't want to put this tournament together and then have people say, well, you guys set this tournament the way you wanted it. So we want to do something different. We want the fans to match these guys up in the first round of the tournament. That's right. We're going to have the fans vote on which of these guys should face each other in the first round of the tournament. This has never been done. But the fans are important to me. They're important to our team, that they understand that we want this to be their combat sport. And because we want it to be their combat sport, we want them involved. And since we want them involved, we want them to match up the first round in Valor BK tournament, September 21st at Four Bears Casino.
Yeah, and it's cool because the link to vote is actually, if you're watching this on Forbes directly, the link to vote is right under this video. So if you see it, it's hyperlinked that says here is the link for fans to place their votes. You can click there and vote, or if you're watching directly on YouTube, it's in the description of the video. So and the poll, if I'm not, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, the poll ends tonight at midnight.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you and all there's really three different combinations of what you can have in regards to the matchups. So if you maybe you want to see God Beer, Mark the Hand of God Beer face the outlaw
Yeah.
Jack May.
Right.
Maybe you want to see that, or maybe you want to and you want to see so Kuju take who is the African assassin
Woo.
take it taking on Mighty Mo. You can see that, or if you want to see God Beer and Mighty Mo and Sakujo and Jack May, or you might want to see God Beer and Sakujo and Jack May and Mighty Mo. You can pick either of those three pairings, and you can do that by making that known by clicking the link and placing your vote. As I said, the poll will end at midnight tonight. So
But
that's
dude, I'm excited with you just talking about it, man. I can hardly believe myself, man. I was like, man, I know what I want to see.
yeah. It's gonna be really interesting. Just introducing that fan interaction portion is something that like I've been following combat sports for almost 40 years, and the first fight I ever saw combat sports period was Thomas Hearns and Ray Leonard back in in the early 80s, and ever since then I was hooked. I was like sitting in my high chair, and my mother said I put my arm out and I wouldn't eat anymore. Because I wanted to watch. So I've never seen anybody say, "Hey, we're going to let the fans choose the tournament bracket." So that's unique in itself. So like I said, those fighters, in case you guys want a refresher on who they are, three of them have UFC experience. God Beer fought in the UFC. Jack May fought in the UFC. Sokujo fought in the UFC. Mighty Mo actually has fought. I think he has I think it's like almost 20 mixed martial arts bouts, but he's most well known for his kickboxing career, huge knockouts. Think David Tua with kicks.
That's
So
that's heavyweight explosion, brother.
he's a big guy. So and actually, if you're looking at it in Forbes, I've linked actually some of Mighty Mo's most famous knockouts in the article. So if you get a refresher there, but obviously, Ken, you are a pioneer in the space of mixed martial arts and combat sports overall. I can say for a fact, you, Hoist Gracie, Chemo, Kevin Randleman, Mark Coleman, you guys really introduced mixed martial arts to me, and I know to a lot of other people. So while I have you here, I kind of have to ask you about some of the stuff that's happening in MMA today. Just this past Saturday, Daniel Cormier
Oh,
lost to Stipe Miocic in the rematch. Did you get a chance to see that fight?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but what I did see of it, and what I did hear of it, um, yeah, I think that there was one guy that showed up to fight. I mean, even though you saw that there was some competition there,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not at the level you're used to seeing Cormier at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and it looked to me like he didn't come in good shape, really good shape, like he used to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I think that Mochik, I have a hard time pronouncing that.
Yeah, Miocic. Yeah.
Miocic, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he was just two steps ahead, and that and he was able to finish because I thought that he was more well prepared going into the fight than Cormier was. So, to hats off to him, congratulations, and yeah, I think Cormier needs to stand back, take a look at what he's going to do next, whatever that may be. But if he does step in the ring and fight again, he's got to put the work in, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can't come in and just fight at 3/4, right? You got to be 100%. And even at the 3/4, he was still really good, right? You
Yeah.
he would have put the work in like he normally used to, and been able to go as what he wanted to go, as far as he could go with the conditioning and stuff. I think he would have been able to put on a better show. But congratulations to both of those guys, because again, like I said, both had great careers. I think you're going to see more out of Mochek. I keep killing that name.
Yeah, that's all right.
But yeah, so like I said, I didn't get to watch the whole fight. I saw bits and pieces of it. Then I read some stuff on it, and some of the stuff that I saw on there, it kind of leaned more towards that. Whereas I think Cormier was probably at maybe 90%, not at 100%.
Right, right. I would tend to agree. All right, now last question, and I'm not going to hold you anymore. You were one of the few people who cross over from like mixed martial arts to professional wrestling, and were able to bring a persona, a character with you that worked well. And I probably mostly because a lot of it was a part of the real personality, you know. So, is there anybody right now in the professional wrestling space that like catches your eye and you're like, you know, that guy or girl kind of gets it?
I haven't really had a chance to really be follow any individual because I'm kind of trying to get myself prepared for my own kind of comeback in pro wrestling.
Gotcha.
So I've been more focused on trying to be in conditioning and taking care of my health and focus on the direction that I want to go with Valor BK and then also myself going into some other opportunities that I have coming up with pro wrestling. So for me, I've been more focused on that. I haven't really been paying attention to any of the other stuff that's going on outside of that. So I've been, like I said, more focused on that. But I want to get back to the Valor BK and some of our thoughts going into Valor BK. It's important that I get this message out. Starting Valor BK I was tired of watching people succeed because they were given equipment to make them better. Like, for instance, gloves. If you were to take the gloves off these guys, would they be as great as they are? Just think about that for a minute. Mayweather, if you took the boxing gloves off him, took the tape off him, would he be that great? I'm not saying he won't. I'm saying he's a tremendous fighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But was it the gloves that did it? We don't know, right?
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
So I've always thought to myself, if I had the opportunity and I could get Valor BK out there, that what we want, the message we want to send out, that we want to be different than anything else out there. We want the fighters to go in there and fight with God-given talent, no equipment to make you better, nothing else is going to make you better as a fighter, but just God-given talent. When you step into the ring, it's you and the other guy. It's pure. And so for me, that's one of the things that I want to grasp onto, and I want that message to get out there to all these people who are going to watch Valor BK and to all the people that I want to understand why we're doing it, especially the Y and Z generation, that this is about two fighters getting in the ring and fighting with what they have been given by God. That's it. No equipment to make you better. It's just you and the other guy, and it's pure.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely something to be said, and I know that there's a huge audience for people who enjoy that type of combat. You know, when you watch a bare knuckle bout or just in that whole thing, it is the other sports don't always translate as well. So it's kind of like, yes, that other experience from wherever they came from is interesting and it's something to take note of, but it doesn't automatically mean that when they step into that bare knuckle ring that everything's going to be equal. So that is something definitely to watch for.
Yeah, and I think that as we move forward with the Valor BK, we'll get to be able to have those experiences like Ishii, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Payon. He's a boxer. He's coming in without gloves on.
Right.
Watched it happen with Malinaji, right?
Yeah.
We're going to see Valor BK wrestlers, against boxers, against boxers. We're going to have all those combinations come in, and we will see whether or not bare knuckle is a much different discipline than anything else out there. Can you be the same fighter? Can you be the same fighter with gloves on, without gloves on?
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be interesting. We had some reactions to the Mali Najee fight, and I had some thoughts about that whole exactly what you just said. And I think when we do see Ishe Smith, a former world champion who is now signed with Valor BK, when we do see him step into the ring, I think we'll see the next chapter of that narrative kind of explained.
Yeah, for me, it's a fun time because it's almost like in the very beginning days when you had the style against style.
Yeah.
Literally the same thing because guys come in and almost every discipline, they're wearing gloves. When they come into this, there's no gloves. So we get to see whether or not whatever they did in the past, whether it's MMA, kickboxing, boxing, whatever it is, does it translate over into bare knuckle, kickboxing, MMA, any of that other stuff doesn't translate over. Can you be as great at what you were before in bare knuckle? Because people are always saying, well, that's where people go when they retire. Well, I beg to differ. I just think it's because bare knuckle hasn't been around that long, and they haven't had the opportunity to come in and fight in this. So what I say is the challenge is on. Can you be the same kind of greatness in what you did before in bare knuckle?
Yeah, and I also think one of the things that we're going to have to see is who's going to build the first homegrown bare knuckle star.
Yes, and listen, the door's open, right? There is none.
Yeah,
It's like in the beginning days, right? Like where, hey, who is going to be that emerging star in this industry that is older than any of them, and be able to come in at now where it's new? Who will be that first person to rise to stardom in bare knuckle?
Yes.
Valor BK coming to you, tournament style. Voters, get on there, man. Vote for your guys. Vote which ones you want to fight each other. I'm excited. I know who I want to fight.
All right. All right. All right. All right, Ken, I appreciate so much you taking the time to speak to me today. Again, Valor BK one night heavyweight tournament. You can vote for the brackets. The link is in the Forbes article as well as in the description of this video. September 21st, it goes down at the Four Bears Casino and Lodge in Newtown, North Dakota. You can also order the event on Fight TV on live stream via pay-per-view. So, like I said, I appreciate your time, Kim. Thanks so much, and you have a great one.
Listen, I want to give a shout out too because I got stuck here, not stuck, but had a long trip getting here. So I want to give a shout out to Bethlehem Community Church in Laurel, Mississippi. Pastor Jamie Alton, man, thank you guys for all the help here and getting me onto this video. Appreciate you.
Amen. All right. All right. Have a good one.
All right.
All right.